Welcome back to Live Now from Fox, and you're taking a live look at Lebanon right there as it is nightfall, and you can also see in the distance what appears to be an airstrike as we do continue to follow the very latest out of the Middle East. And thank you for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu. Time right now is 1:10 Eastern, 10:10 Pacific. I do want to head to that live look once again at Lebanon, as you can see the smoke in the distance and what appears to be an airstrike as we continue to follow the very latest as an Israeli airstrike hit a mosque in central Gaza earlier on Sunday, killing at least 19 people. That's according to Palestinian officials. The Israeli military said that the strikes targeted militants. Israeli airstrikes also hit the southern suburbs of Beirut, striking what the military also said were Hezbollah targets. Now, all of this comes on the eve of 1 year since the October 7th attacks against Israel. Also on Sunday, officials said one person was killed and 10 others were wounded in a stabbing and shooting attack at a bus station in a southern city in Israel. Israel on high alert now as it prepares to hold memorial ceremonies. Israel's police did not identify the assailant, but said that they were treating it as a terror attack. Now, this attack comes a few days after 7 people were killed in a shooting attack in Tel Aviv last Monday. In that attack, 2 Palestinian men opened fire into a crowd inside the city's light rail and around the station before being killed by security forces in the area. To speak more on this, I do want to bring in Ruthie Bloom, former advisor at the office of Netanyahu, as well as a senior contributing editor at Jewish News Syndicate and the co-host of Israel Undiplomatic on JNS TV. Ruthie, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Well, thank you for having me, Stephanie.
I do want to start off with the stabbing and shooting attack that happened in a bus station in Israel. This, of course, comes on the eve of 1 year since the October 7th massacre. How concerned are officials about all of the security and possible attacks tomorrow?
Well, very concerned, and we've stepped up security very seriously. But, you know, it's hard to locate every single terrorist who decides one morning, okay, today I'm going to do it. I want to say that in the meantime, we have identified the terrorist. He shot at and stabbed people at the central bus station in Beersheba, which is a major southern city. And he is a Bedouin, an Israeli citizen. And that's very disturbing because it's one thing when the terrorists come from outside of Israel and quite another when they come from inside. But you see, it's all part of a bigger picture here. As you mentioned, the October 7th massacre for the past year, basically Iran has launched a 7-front war against Israel. And it's been going on all these months. There are still 101 hostages left in Gaza. Now, what is good about the recent actions that Israel is taking is that we're really bringing the battlefield to the enemy. And that means Iran. It's true that we've been fighting in Gaza, and it's true that we started a ground incursion into Lebanon. And also, I'd like to add that any strikes we conducted on mosques or anything else, any civilian structure in Lebanon, were actually command and control centers used by Hezbollah. And you have no idea the amount of weapons and RPGs, missiles, missile launchers located by our soldiers in massive tunnels right near the Israeli border.
And Ruthie, that's a tactic of these terrorist organizations that you mentioned. They embed themselves among civilians, making it incredibly difficult and challenging to combat. That's one of their tactics. You also mentioned Iran, and I did want to ask you this as they launched their largest yet missile attack against Israel last week. Israel has vowed to respond. What might that response look like?
Well, you know, I don't know. And even if I did, of course, I couldn't say. But I will say that Iran is taking it very seriously because it reportedly closed off the airport in Tehran and said no flights going in or out tonight, which means that the regime is expecting some kind of response in the very near future. Now, I don't know if that's really happening tonight, and I don't know what form it will take. I have all kinds of theories, and I have, my own wish list, which really has nothing to do with government policy. My wish list would be that Israel starts taking out the heads of the regime. Those are the heads of the snake, Ayatollah Khamenei. The way that Israel took out Hezbollah's leadership, one by one, until it got to Hassan Nasrallah, the chief. It weakens them very, very seriously when we do that. And so that would be my wish list. I really have no idea if that's what we're doing. But the assault of ballistic missiles on the entire country last Tuesday evening, which I, by the way, was caught in on the street when it happened, it was such a massive barrage all over the country. It's just inexcusable. And it was only by the grace of God and our bomb shelters and our air defenses that massive amounts of people were not killed.
And you were caught in it, Ruthie. Can you share with us, you said you were on the street. Was there just the sudden sirens? There was, I imagine, just little notice as you make your way as quickly as possible to one of the bomb shelters. What was that experience like?
Well, as it happens, a couple of hours earlier, the whole country had been told, we have these messages from the Home Front Command, been told to please stay near our bomb shelters or safe rooms, okay? And then at about closer to the time, there was a serious alert saying, okay, now everybody into shelters. But at that moment, I was on a train on the way between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. And so, the internet is a little sketchy when you're in a train underground. When we arrived, during the trip, the conductor said, we can't go any farther. You all have to disembark because of the security situation, which we did. And then it was hard to get to our destinations. There weren't bomb shelters on the street. We got on a bus, and then we had to keep getting off the bus because of the sirens and the booms. We heard everything. We saw interceptions above us in the sky. And this was simultaneously. Police cars and ambulances were whizzing by because they were headed to the scene of the terrorist attack that left 7 Israelis dead, including the mother of a 9-month-old baby who was still nursing.
When you share those details, it's just absolutely harrowing. And I do want to ask you this. It's been incredibly somber, I have to imagine, the mood in Israel for nearly a year here, as tomorrow does mark 1 year since the October 7th massacre. Has that move shifted at all? What is it like?
Yes, well, I would say the mood has shifted dramatically. Now, it is true that the hostages still remaining in Gaza, that is a real sore point, and the entire country is terrified about their well-being. But the reason the mood has shifted upwards is that for the first half a year, even though we were making strides in Gaza, I would say, against Hamas terrorists, the Biden administration was tying our hands. And so each time we wanted to make a move, for example, into Rafah, where it was believed that Sinwar, the head of Hamas, holding hostages, and also near the border with Egypt, where there are massive tunnels through which weapons were being transported. The Biden administration kept saying, no, don't do it. Don't go in. Don't do that. Don't do this. And so it was, there was low morale, and not among the soldiers. The soldiers were really doing their job and doing it with gusto, but the public was really feeling out of sorts about the whole thing and how this war is dragging on. And suddenly, that shifted. And I think the point at which it shifted was when 6 hostages were executed in cold blood in the midst of negotiations for a deal with Hamas. And one of those hostages is a famous one because he's American and everybody got to know his name, Hirsch. And he was one of these executed for no reason other than to say, we killed Jews, and that's our whole purpose. So after that, something changed. And as we saw, we completed operations that left the world in awe. There were beepers killing and wounding Hezbollah leadership and terrorists in Lebanon, and then walkie-talkies. And then we took out a whole bunch of the leaders of the terrorist organization. And one by one, and again, we didn't take credit for this, but the head of Hamas's Politburo, who was attending Iran's inauguration of its new president, he was taken out in Iran, even though he was staying at a safe house. So once we took this all to the enemy and said, no more nice guy, I think the mood in Israel improved tremendously. Now, of course, tomorrow we're all going into mourning over that terrible anniversary of October 7th.
Ruthie, before we let you go, is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers, especially on the eve of the one-year anniversary of the October 7th massacre?
Well, yes, I'd like to say that we are now in the period of the Jewish high holidays. We just finished the Jewish New Year, and we are entering next week Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement. And then after that, we enter Sukkot and Simchat Torah. And that holiday, Simchat Torah, was the holiday of the massacre, of the October 7th massacre. I think it's important because our enemies often choose our high holidays to commit atrocities against us. And that is while we take care, even during this war, to ease up during Ramadan, for example. So I would like to say it's very important that we stay strong and remember who we are in these holidays. And if anybody has to atone for anything next weekend, it should be these enemies and fellow travelers in the West who are siding with them.
Ruthie, as always, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you again, Stephanie, for having me.